welcome back. If you haven't, I am blown away that these words can leave my mouth, but we've just added this McLaren SENNA to the channel garage. What is going on? Anyway, the whole idea of the first drive of the cars that we introduce on the channel is to share with you the things that you can't Google. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you can quite easily go online and find out that the SENNA has around about 800 brake horsepower. Together with that, it appropriately has just around about 800 kilograms of downforce and is capable to 0 to 60 in just under 3 seconds. That's all well and good. You can find out that it weighs just over 1,300 kilograms, and you can find out that it broke the production car record for deceleration of a speed of 125 miles an hour to dead zero in 100 meters. That is a decelerative force of 2.1 G. And while all of that information is readily available, what isn't readily available is how it makes you feel. What's it actually like to drive? How does it stimulate the senses? You see, as humans, we are a big bag of nerves, receptors, one big organism that we can push, prod, and feed stimuli in order to make us feel a certain way. And this thing, the McLaren SENNA, is designed to push and prod every single one of them. And the ones we're going to be touching on today are touch, taste, sound, smell, and the most important one, emotion. I just kind of threw that in there as a human sense, but for me, that is the most important one of all when it comes to what a supercar, or in this case a hypercar, makes you feel. So first of all, let's just go on the sound. Are you ready? Which means when you let loose all 800 brake horsepower, that structurally rigid engine, which is mounted to the chassis on some very tight bushings indeed, resonate and shake the chassis. The importance of that is that when you get in this car, even when you turn it on, you know it's purposeful just by the sound of the closure of the doors, such as the nature of the hollow tub, the hollow doors, the nature of these seats. Even when you speak inside it, it reverberates and resonates inside the cockpit in a way that suggests it means business. You can just tell it's stripped out and lightweight. But under heavy acceleration, under heavy load, the way that the chassis fizzes and the reverberation of all of those components come alive, it doesn't half stimulate the way this thing resonates your eardrums. Now, one of the big factors in this is, as I mentioned, there are these tight, supportive bushings on the engine. It's not quite so much as a stressed member of the chassis, but it's pretty rigid. And by engineering purpose, McLaren made this in a way that the vibration of the engine resonated through this carbon fiber tub, up through these carbon fiber seats, and to mildly shake the spine of the occupant. Now, at first that might sound uncomfortable, but what it's actually doing is giving a greater sense of connection with what the engine's doing. So if I just drop this down a second like this and give it full send, God, for a turbo car, it is monumentally explosive. And the sounds that come off it, from the tyres searching for grip on this tarmac, from the stones and pebbles that you can hear as a result of having no sound deadening. Honestly, the way this thing picks apart a B road is something to behold. But that's not the only thing about the engine and the exhaust. That's the sort of primary sound. It's the small things that you might not identify. Now, one of the big ones for me is when you pull into a lay-by and you manage to slow down, maybe you're, I don't know, checking your phone or something like that, the tyres pick up some stones. Now, check this out. Hear how harsh that sounds? And when I take off, now that might sound really brash and really harsh, but to me and to purist drivers, what that suggests is a no-nonsense race car. When you leave the pits in a race car, or if you're unfortunate enough to find yourself trimming the gravel, when you pull back on to the circuit, that sound there as a abrasive as it is iconic race car sound. Sticky tyres picking up lumps of grit and dirt and sending it on the inside of the wheel arches, which, because they have no sound deadening, conventional road cars would have a foam liner to stop any of those sorts of sounds. Senna doesn't have that. Small things which, until they're pointed out to you, you realise just how hardcore and stripped out this car is. It is stimulating your ears like nothing else. And then we've got sight. Before you even stepped into this car, just look at it. The road presence. Now, from the outside, I have seen few cars turn heads as much as this thing. When you drive through a town or you're taking it steady on these country roads and you'll see a pedestrian, I've not seen anyone yet who doesn't stop and snap their neck and watch this car as it goes by. Such is the aggressive sculpture of the car. But from a driver's point of view, when you walk over to it and you step into it, it's already putting you on high alert, because every single angle on this car means business in a big, dramatic, dare I say it, quite angry way. That's as a result of 800 kilograms of downforce. So you don't get that kind of performance without taking the aero sculpture pretty seriously. The wing on this thing, without doubt, is the largest wing ever fitted to a road legal car. It is thoroughbred race car stuff. So thoroughbred, in fact, that it contributes to that overall 800 kilograms of downforce. And for a spot of context, a Huracan Performante at top speed can only generate a mere 350 kilograms of downforce. Senna generates 200 kilograms more than even the McLaren P1. The thing is ludicrous. So yes, sight, it stimulates that before you've even got going. But what about when you are in the car? Well, this thing on the full acceleration actually disturbs the retinas in your eyeball. They sort of tweak a little bit. Everything becomes quite warped and distorted in your peripheral vision. You sink your head back against this headrest because it's just a much more comfortable place for your neck to exist. You actually brace yourself for full throttle depression in this. Such is the attack on your senses. Now then, smell. Sadly, we don't have smell-o-vision yet, but if we did, what you would smell is the sweet aroma of Alcantara, met with carbon fiber and just lightweight fabrics and materials. And there is, take my word for it, this isn't a joke. You step in this thing, and funnily enough, particularly on a hot day like this, it is acute. You get in it, you close that door, and you are in a cave of distilled aroma that has filtered its way down from the race-bred engineering at the McLaren factory. It's a wonderful thing. You'll just have to take my word for it. And getting onto the topic of smell, what about taste? I'm just joking. But if speed ever had a flavour, it would be Senna. Now what about the emotion? Well, all of those things combined, that's what really pulls at your heartstrings. Now this thing is so visceral. It's quite hard to convey on camera. One of the most, I guess, impactful sensations from this car is the braking. Now I know I've just been banging on about just how fast this thing is, but actually I feel like the acceleration race is almost over, particularly with the dawn of electric cars. However, the brakes, as I mentioned, it does have one of the craziest deceleration stats of any road car ever made. What that gives you from a car is confidence. The way that you can trust the brakes on this allows you to exploit the downforce, the acceleration, even that front end turn-in. The steering is so direct. I mean, you almost thread this thing with your wrists. You don't need to grab handfuls of it. It feels synaptically connected to your intuition. You only have to look around a corner and that nose goes where you're thinking it should go. Such is the response of this front end. And then, when all of these things click together, honestly, it's a sensation that few road cars can actually match. Honestly, that's about as much as you want to depress the throttle, because you look down at the speedo and you think, surely that's kilometers an hour. and then you very quickly realise it isn't. It's honestly the way this thing puts traction down to the tarmac. It's just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Now then, let's just round this off with the number one sense of them all, if you want to refer to it as a sense, and that is the emotional connection. The emotional connection of this car. It's the intangible stuff, I think, that is the most important when it comes to a hypercar. And while it's hard to put into words, I think one of the things that summarises this car the most is that of all the names, derivatives, numbers that McLaren have come up with over the years to contextualise a car, they gave this the name of arguably their greatest ever Formula 1 driver, and without doubt the most legendary F1 driver of all time. That is Ayrton Senna. I've actually just got goosebumps saying that. It doesn't really matter what I say about how fast it is or how much grip it's got through these corners. Believe me, my shoulders actually brace for impact through these bends because the lateral load is such that it forces me into these ridiculously cool sculpted carbon seats. But all of those numbers, doesn't matter how good it smells, looks, or tastes, the fact that this thing is called a Senna summarises it more than anything that I could ever give to you. McLaren worked closely with the Ayrton Senna family, the Ayrton Senna Foundation, to develop a car that they thought would have been fitting and, importantly, pleasing to Ayrton Senna himself. I actually do have goosebumps. I'm not joking. Wow. I'm in the most beautiful scenario I couldn't even dream up. I'm on the best roads I could imagine. The sun is shining. We've got temperature in these tyres, and I just feel so incredibly fortunate to be behind the wheel of this car, able to share it with you. And that's exactly what we're going to do with this thing. We're going to get it on the road. To do it true justice, we're going to get it on tracks all around the world. As always, thanks so much for watching, and you'll never